Hey guys, Stealth here. Let's have another look at Armored Warfare, and this time I'm taking a closer look at the T62. Now, in Wargame Red Dragon, I'm not the biggest fan of this tank. It is old for Wargame, that is. It does have medium optics, but its armor is low, its armor penetration is low, its rate of fire is only 6 rounds a minute in Wargame, so personally I'm not a big fan of that tank in that game. In this game, it's a completely different story. This is a pretty damn good tier 3. And the reason it's so good is because it has quite a bit of armor. If you look at the details of this tank, you can see that it has 242 millimeters of frontal armor on the turret. If you manage to get this tank to a position where it's hull down, so where you can only expose the turret, it is pretty hard to penetrate. The hull is significantly easier. It only has 102 millimeters. So this means that most tanks, if not all, can penetrate your hull. Of course, something like the Scorpion that I looked at yesterday doesn't have this, because it doesn't have a very high penetration. It wouldn't penetrate the hull, but it would still do module damage. Anyway, most units will penetrate the hull, but the turret is pretty damn safe if you can keep it up that way. And even the sides of your turret have 122 millimeters armor, which means that the sides of your turret are still more heavily armored than your hull. It also means it's crucial that you get this thing hull down. That is the way that you're going to survive. As far as damage per minute, 2368, it's pretty much out there with the rest of the units. If I compare it to the Scorpion, you can see that the alpha or the DPM of this tank is a little bit higher, but I wouldn't rely on this too much. It's more of an indicator, and getting a consistent damage output where you pretty much pull the trigger every second the tank is reloaded, it just doesn't happen. There are not that many targets around, so I wouldn't pay too much attention to that number. As far as the rest of the systems go, the tank has a top speed of 50, although it rarely reaches that. Even with an upgraded engine, I've found that it doesn't very often get to that speed of 50. Maybe if you're going downhill, but otherwise don't rely on that speed too much. It isn't a slow tank per se, it's fast enough, but you're not going to outrace a Leopard, for example. As far as utility stats go, it has a camouflage rating of 0.17, which for a battle tank is not bad. If I pull it up, for example, for the Leopard, you can see that, not for the Leopard, for the OF40. OF40 has a camouflage rating of 0.10, so 0.17 is almost twice that number, which is pretty nice for a main battle tank. As far as vision range goes, you got 432 meters. Comparing that to a scout vehicle, let's say the Swingfire, that's the scout vehicle that I have currently, this thing compares pretty favorably to most scout vehicles. The scout vehicle in a dedicated role, like the Swingfire, has a 500 meter view range. This one has 432, which is pretty good. As far as gun depression goes, you got a -6 to -4 degrees gun depression, which isn't bad, but it is usually not enough. You're going to have to climb over that obstacle or that terrain bump and actually get your gun down there. Reload time is okay. You can get this down with the retrofits. Accuracy spread is usually okay, but firing on the move with this tank is not something it does very well. As far as the upgrades go that you can get for this tank, there's quite a few of them, and I have all of them unlocked. That is, except for the modules, but I can do that right now. You don't get an armor upgrade, but what you do get is a ton of upgrades for the ammunition types and the firepower that this tank has. You got two types of APFSDS, which stands for Armor Piercing Fin Stabilized Discarding Sabo. Basically your high-end armor penetration shell. And this is what you fire when you're dealing with tanks, because some of the heat might not be able to go through an enemy tank. The other round that you can fire is Heat, which is high explosive anti-tank. This round has significantly less penetration. You can see that it has a pen of 197 millimeters versus a pen of 237. Now you may say, yeah, well that's only 40 millimeters, and you'd be right, but that 40 millimeters might just make the difference between actually going through a tank and delivering that 300 millimeter or that 300 damage, or not going through a target and not actually doing full damage with this round. And with heat, if it doesn't pen, it is not going to do a lot of damage, if any at all. But heat is going to be very, very effective once you're dealing with lightly armored vehicles. And the game is actually kind enough to provide this information. You can see they're best against light vehicles that do not have countermeasures designed to stop it, which is pretty much another term for saying composite armor. Armor built up of multiple layers which will stop this heat round. AP-FSDS is best against heavily armored targets. So an AP-FSDS round will penetrate multiple layers of armor. It's also worth going for a firepower retrofit slot because it will allow you to get more damage done. And more on that in a bit. As far as the engines go, you started with the basic V55V engine, which takes you 10 seconds to accelerate to 32 kph. That over time does get better, and you can see that by now I'm down to 8.5 seconds, which I suppose is only 1.25 seconds better, but it does mean that your acceleration has gone up. And that acceleration is noticeable once you start to get moving and once you actually try to dodge shells. You also get an upgrade for the tracks. The tracks themselves get more hit points than they did before, 510 on the basic versus 550 once improved. And you get a bit more off-road speed. So every system or every terrain type improves by at least 5% except for off-road. And your mud traverse is actually quite a lot better. So once you get the better tracks in a muddy terrain, you can start turning the tank quicker. You also get an upgrade for the fire control system, and this is definitely worth it because by using this one you get a faster targeting time, so your aim reticule will go down faster, allowing you to get faster shots on targets. The other two slots that you have here are mutually exclusive. Or at least I believe. You have the laser rangefinder, which improves the minimum accuracy. So this means that you can zoom in further. Or you can go with the gunner sight, which improves the maximum accuracy, which means that your targeting reticule doesn't really get as big as it can go. And then there's the commander sight, which just increases the view range overall. Now the gunner sight and the rangefinder are mutually exclusive. They do not stack. If I were to pick this one, you can see that the box from this one disappears. Personally, I'm going with the rangefinder, because the more minimum accuracy I have, and it may take me longer to fully zoom in, the better chances I get of hitting a weak spot, especially once I'm slugging it out front-wise. So that's the reason why I'm going to go with the rangefinder. If you want this thing to be a rolling brawler, where you're going to go close in with a target, you may want to switch to the gunner sight and get a maximum accuracy to increase. Let's see. Oh, sorry, I have it in reverse. I have the wrong upgrade installed, actually. I should go with this one. This one improves maximum accuracy, so this one's for the zoom. This one's for a rolling aggressive brawler. Finally, in the technology section, you have the Meteor 2 planes gun stabilizer, which means better accuracy on the move. And actually I'm going to put it back to this one because this suits my playstyle with this tank better. With this, especially combined, you can get a very effective rolling aggressive tank, and that is personally how I use the T62. Now the other things that you can unlock are once you have proven status, which happens at 50% of the unlock track tree or the unlock bar. I can go for braided Kevlar wiring, which is something that I can equip, but I really haven't yet because I don't find it that useful. This protects your crew against incoming damage, so they are less likely to get knocked down. Now I can just spend 7,500 research points, so I'm just going to spend those here. And I could get another influx of 10,000 credits, so why not? As far as the ammo types go that this tank has, there's three options. You got the AP-FSDS, which is the anti-tank round, you got the anti-everything else round, and you got HE. Personally, I never use HE, And that's because if I find myself coming up against targets which I just cannot penetrate, I switch fire to another target. And heat rounds do almost as much damage. You can see 383 versus 368 when you're firing at something that has almost no armor like an artillery unit. So I'm going to go with heat anyway because I don't have to switch my ammo types. Retrofits based, I went with everything that boosts my firepower. So I went with the experimental propellant, which gives me 5% more damage, and the advanced thermal sleeve, which will allow my weapon to reload faster. And a 6% faster reload is something that you will notice once you look at the damage output overall. I don't believe that this translates into the specs that I just showed you under details, but maybe they're going to add that later, as they did in World of Warships. Commander-wise, I have Philip Holtzclaw in here, which is pretty much my tank commander based purely on tank-to-tank warfare. So I got Pack Tactics, which will improve my module damage. I got Fire at Will, which will reload. Sorry about that. Which will reduce my reload time when a nearby ally is damaged, and being a frontline tank, that does happen quite often. Bullseye will allow my accuracy to be improved by 10%. Fitness training means my crew hit points get improved by 20%, and I picked this one over weapon repair because I found that my weapon just doesn't get disabled that often. And finally I got Vigilant, which improves my vision range. And definitely once you're using tanks and you go up against it or up into the tech tree, you're going to find that your tanks do not have a lot of vision range. So that's why I went with this commander. Alright, let's pick a battle and see if I can get a fight going. I'm going to pause it here, and once I get a battle I'll resume the recording. Alright, the match is loaded in. We got a pretty diverse matchmaking in this one. We're looking at Tier 2, Tier 3 and Tier 4. But Tier 4 is 2 artillery pieces, for our team and for their team. Otherwise they got a T64 and an LAV on their team, and we just have mostly Tier 3s. Now the units that I'm seeing on their team is diverse. So normally when I see a lot of light vehicles, I start out with a heat round to make sure I can damage a fast rolling up lightly armored vehicle. This time around I'm just going to stick to my armor piercing rounds to make sure I can actually damage a tank, because I'm more likely to encounter... What the hell? I'm more likely to encounter a tank right from the get-go. Now these hitboxes, by the way, if you haven't seen them yet, you can activate these under settings, and then you go to UI, and down at the bottom you got the hit log boxes, which you can enable. One thing that I have found with Armored Warfare is that we have a ton of campers, mostly main battle tanks, and I'm gonna say that it's probably a situation where people are still learning the game, so they're not as familiar with pushing up. I've done a lot of pushing up with World of Tanks, and it can be quite frustrating to not have your allies push up along with you. And that's something I did run into. It can be pretty frustrating. I got the Scorpion ahead of me. He's not really in a good position for a Scorpion. If you saw my Scorpion review, you know that a Scorpion is a flanker tank. It's fast, it's small, it's light, and I think that the best role for this one would be a little bit more to the right, where it might be able to shoot some tanks in the side. On the minimap I can see that the T64 is actually in the middle of the map, which is very, very comforting to me. Also, over there, don't go there. I tried, you cannot go around. It'll make you look like an idiot. Okay, I've been spotted. I'm expecting tank destroyer shells to start coming in, really. I have no interest in actually getting too close. There's an artillery piece being lit up there, but I can't hit it yet. Let's see if I can nail this leopard or any of his buddies there. Scorpion is now actually going to do his flanking job, which will take some of the pressure off of us and make it a lot easier for us to start doing damage here. Unfortunately, he may have seen me coming. Now, I want to be aggressive with this tank, but not too aggressive. If you overextend, you're going to find yourself back in the garage really quickly, and that's not something I'm looking forward to. Now, as expected, there's a tank destroyer up there. Gotta be a bit careful here. Let's see if that tank is actually, or that TD is actually out of cover. Not yet. I'm going to start loading heat. Because these tanks in front of me are more likely to show their sides or possibly a weak spot. So that I can get a heat shell into their sides, or maybe I can do some damage with a heat round into any of these tank destroyers. That is, if they are going to stay spotted. You can see this LAV 300 is being heavily punished. Autocannon fire, HE rounds, everything's going into that tank. Now the T62 here is probably facing with his front towards the other tanks there. And actually, let's try and nail this Leopard one first. Got artillery coming in, but you do get a warning for that. There's a Scorpion up there. I don't want to get shot in the side by that thing. And now I've sort of overextended. I'm alone on this flank, which could be trouble. Because I have threats on pretty much all sides. Not a good position. Now you can see that my gun depression is just not good enough. Let's see, there is a target there. If I could nail that, that would be great. Got him. Scorpion was trying some business here. Yeah, he's gonna hit me. But not before I do 442 damage to him. And he hit my front side. So he's not gonna do that much damage. Got him. Pretty good round so far. I'm gonna switch back to an AP FSDS shell to make sure I can start penetrating tanks. I'm gonna BMP here, which is a light target. 409. That's a very, very high damage roll. And now there's an Object 155, full health coming at me. I hope that this round's going to pen, but it's not. You can see that he's putting round after round into my lower section, into my hull, which is doing a lot of damage. And I got killed off by... good question, by what? By the Patent 48. That was one of the last surviving team members there. Still, I think I did a great job. I did a 1750 damage. I took 1060, which is just your full hit points. And with this and my aggressive pushing, I killed off 4 tanks. Mostly some kill stealing, but still. I'd say I was effective on that flank. Okay, I'm going to pause it again until the results screen comes up. And then we're going to continue with the discussion of this tank. Alright, results are up. I got 4,327 XP for that, which I believe will put me solidly at the top of the team. You may say that I was kill stealing, but I usually don't look at it that way. Yes, I took out some of the tanks that were heavily damaged, but I personally feel that it's always the best to take out a gun when you have the chance to do so. And by doing that, you are making sure that even if the tank is crippled or on 2 or 3 hit points left, it still has a gun. And the moment you take it out, you're not getting yourself or your teammates shot at. So, kill stealing, maybe. I'll leave that up to you. Anyway, with this, I also got 120,000 credits. And you're going to see that my damage was not really the most important thing I did here. Spotting was. I spotted 11 enemies, which gives me a 1907 damage done to spotted enemies. And that actually got me more XP and more cash than the damage I did. So even in a medium or a heavy tank, I suppose you should call this, let's see how they describe it, a main battle tank, a heavy tank, I suppose. Even with a heavy tank like this, you can still do some spotting, just by being aggressive, getting in there and trying to do as much damage as possible. Now I already unlocked the T64 by that last 4000 XP, but I'm going to pause the recording again and get another gameplay in so you can see how the tank can behave under a different situation. Okay, same map, but with a slightly different matchmaking. The enemy team now consists pretty much 50-50 out of heavy tanks. Or medium tanks, that is. Leopard 1 I wouldn't exactly call a heavy, but a lot of T62s. My team, mostly T62s, a couple of Leopard 1s, a Scorpion, a couple of Pattons and some other tier 2s. Good thing we all have some spotters, because I was in a match not too long ago where nobody had spotters, and it was just a mess, because you're going to rely on your main tanks to spot the enemies. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, as I showed you last gameplay. But still, it's not something I want to rely on. Now this time around I'm not going towards the right, I'm going towards the left, because the left is a pretty hilly terrain. And hilly terrain is something that the T62 does very well in. It does very well in that terrain because it has the very high turret armor. 242 if I recall the number correctly. And with that, if I can hide my hull behind a hill there, don't say that too often, hide your hull behind a hill. I'm already messing up there. If you can do that, your turret's going to stick out, and only your turret's going to stick out, which makes it very difficult for enemy units to actually do damage to your tank. Now some enemy unit is rushing right into the base, which is right in the middle of the map there. You can see that it's pinging. Not sure why they are moving up that fast, but okay. Mind your driving. Jesus. See, my team is camping out pretty much all the way back here, which I think is not far enough ahead. You can go way closer to the enemies, and we know that some of their enemy or some of their units are already on that flank, and that I have been spotted, which is interesting. But these hillsides are going to protect me. I'm going to try and keep my hull safe from the opposition by using the hill and possibly gun impression. Now they say roads are always a good way to get ambushed. In this situation I would disagree, because by doing this I'm keeping only my turret from sticking out, or my hull from sticking out. So I only have my turret out there. And yes, they may be spotting me, but good luck trying to actually do damage to me. Thing is, there are only light units here, except for that M60. I'm a bit hesitant to cross the road here. Let's hope that it works. We already lost 3 tanks, that's pretty fast. I'm gonna get this XM800, but the gun depression just won't let me. Trying to come around the other side. But this is more risky because my entire hull is vulnerable in this position. Now they have 4 units, we only have 3. And that includes... oh, hang on, let me just take this shot. 355. That includes a PT-76, which is not perfectly ideal in this situation. Now I have been designated, so any shot to me is going to do more damage. But they don't have a shot on me. And they don't have any artillery, so... bring it on. Don't let that box, or this box, panic you in a situation like this. See, now we broke contact, and now they have no idea where we are. And they cannot do too much damage. Now I'm gonna have to start pushing in, so I'm gonna load back to APFSDS. And let's nail this M60 before he gets away. No effect, didn't pen it. You can see that the gun takes a while to actually zoom in. So, snapshot, got it. Now loading right back into heat. There's still that LAV 150 there, and that can do quite a bit of damage if he manages to get my hull, which I'm not going to give to him. There's There's also a 62 there, who is using exactly the same tactic. You see that round just carefully or carelessly bounced off of my turret. He can do that all day. 438 damage there. Very nice damage roll. And it seems that the LAV might be trying to get away. I really don't have anything to shoot at, so this 62 needs to start moving up. Now, this is one of the few positions where an HE round actually would be useful. And I think that he just fired at me with an HE round. Now it's going to be a bit risky, but I want to try and push in. Because he's alone there. He has the LAV 150 with him, but not much else. And I haven't done a lot of damage, only 900. I'm going to get in aggressively and get my damage done. And hopefully, yeah, the 62 behind me is moving up. If he can keep that up, we can double team this guy. Didn't get him, and I took a pretty bad hit. I shot him in the track, so the tracks ate all the damage there. Instead, we're gonna nail the LAV 150, but I couldn't zoom in fast enough. Now angle my armor as best I can. And he hit me again. Now he has a major hit point advantage, so I'm gonna let the other T62 take the brunt of it as I try to flank this tank. Maybe I can actually shoot at some other targets here. He's looking at me, and then he's looking at the other T62. He doesn't know who to go for. And I hope that my buddy T62 here can push up, because he has full hit points. And I'm a one-shot. There, he seems to have fired. I got hit by another T62 there. Come on, buddy. Yeah, he's coming for me. And that's not good. Don't do that. Okay, we're gonna go for Sabo still. There's a Leo 1, and I can just use the cover that provided by this corpse to stay safe. T62 is not a sniper. It is absolutely terrible in that role. But right now I don't have a lot of other alternatives, because I am very heavily damaged. And you can see that there's a Leopard 1 just camping all the way back there, as well as a T62, and that's the last two surviving tanks, but we got nothing spotting them at this stage. There's the 62, probably behind some cover on that flank. Leopard 1 here. Got a shell into him, 300 damage. Haven't been spotted, and that's because they don't have any spotting vehicles left. View range on the Leopard isn't that good that they can see me at this stage, so I'm not worried. I am probably going to survive this match. And still do almost as much damage as I did last time around. There's the Leopard again. He's being very, very careful. Should be, but if he hadn't camped in the first place, he would have been in a much, much better position. So much for the Leopard. T62 is going to come up, firing. Didn't pen. Unfortunately, he's going to be back in cover before my round gets reloaded. Come on out. Alright, I'm going to start moving in. Don't try to drop down this ridge, by the way. It is a death trap. 10-0. Another pretty damn good victory, if I say so myself. Although I wasn't that instrumental in this gameplay as I was in the last one. But I hope I could show you that the turret's pretty damn bouncy. You can use the terrain to your advantage. And it's okay to rely on your teammates. So long as your teammates actually recognize an opportunity when they see one. Which I have found is not always the case. Let's get to the results screen. Here we go, another 1200 XP, 60,000 credits, and as far as teams go, I ended up 4th. Still, I don't think I did specifically well, or particularly well, but I still did a little bit better than the other T62, which actually did more damage, but again, I spotted probably more units, 70 points in spotting damage, which was 780 damage done. So I'm happy with the result. Now, why did I do another gameplay? I already had the tank unlocked. Yeah, true, but I just wanted to show you some more gameplay of it. Anyway, I hope that with this you have a pretty good idea of how you can play the T62. I'm not saying that my way is the only correct way. Maybe I was being too aggressive, maybe not aggressive for your taste. It all depends on your playstyle. But overall, this is a pretty good all-round tank. It's not particularly fast though. It is very heavily armored if you can hide that hole. And its gun will pen pretty much anything you come up against if you shoot it in weak spots. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, please hit the like button, and if you want to see more, subscribe to my channel, because I'll be covering all of the tanks as I unlock them, of course, with reviews and gameplays. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.